So we're recording. Yay, we're here with Harry. I'm very privileged to have him on and honored from Devil's Playground 2. And he's got, I think, a really intense, exciting presentation for you from what I've seen of it. So I just want to start off doing a little introduction. Hi, guys. I'm doing a Nigel. I'm definitely not a Nigel replacement, but
How's it
so
going?
I'll just
How
do
are
a
you doing
little
today?
intro and then I'll do an intro and let you take over. So let's see here. I did my slides. All right. So I want to, before we start, mention I randomly picked someone candidly. You're the subscriber star. I think it's a she, but I'm not sure. But you always post really positive, supportive comments. So I really appreciate that. And I feel like you're really awake. So let's get started. I did some memes like Nigel does. I was going to have a serious one and I ended up doing a bunch of funny ones. So when all you want to do is enslave humans, harvest souls, drink Lucian party, but now humanity's waking up. Satan, 5 days into Armageddon, realizing humans are already adapting and making memes about the demons. I don't know if you've seen some of these. I, of course, literally stole all of them. And a Christmas one. Merry Christmas, when you don't have to spend a lot on your presents this year because most friends and family have abandoned you. Why does this make me laugh? I don't know. I have a sick sense of humor. We're all getting isolated. And then this one's for you, Harry. I think it has to do with your presentation.
Yeah.
Kids complaining about Spotify. They don't know the struggle is real. So those of you that are young, this is a cassette tape for future reference that you may need.
That
All
is
right. So I'm going to
perfect.
turn hosting over to you. You say whatever you want.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that yeah, the last slide you shared right there was perfect with regards to what I wanted to share today. And what I'm sharing today springboards from one of the podcasts you had. Was it with Eddie? And you guys were talking about the tape and how things need to be rewound and to be listened to again, like the old videotapes that you had when you rented it, and they when you took it back to the store, they said you better rewind it or we're going to charge you for it. So that was kind of saying we need things to be rewound to be restarted. And so that kind of got me thinking. That's how a lot of things work, like records and time, for that matter, could be the same thing. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we'll go right into this presentation. All right, so let's go to the front. Hold on. I didn't want to start at the end. Let's go to the start. All right. So I named it We Are the Key to Time, and by living to unlock the clock. I really think that we always say that time is our enemy, but in reality, it is only what we make it. So if we want to have it be our enemy, yeah, we can have the clock be eating us, just like Kronos does, because Kronos in the Greek, chronos means time, and so typically it's depicted as consuming us, but in reality, we can define what time is. So that's up to us. So if we're awake enough, I don't like using that term, but if we are aware of what's going on around us and we can manifest the things by our actions, I think a lot of times we can actually defeat time and put him on our side, or have him actually working for us instead of us being in that fear matrix. So I think that's what I want to focus on today. And we'll look at the next slide. So when we look at symbolic things like the Ouroboros, we look at a clock and it goes from, from 12 to 6 and then back to 12, top of the hour. It just goes in one direction. And when we think about time, time is in our view linear, and we only talk about time in a linear fashion. We think about what are we going to do, or what my next appointment is. Like my appointment was for 9:30 a.m. today to be on Anmarie's excellent show, but because of some of the glitches with the microphone and the connection, I think we ended up starting 15 minutes late, which isn't that bad, but still, to be timely and to want to work on other people's schedules and not impinge on their time, you want to be punctual. So we always look at time as being going in one direction, but in reality, I think it can take more. It can take more forms. So we want to look at the word Ouroboros, and I broke it down, and I looked it up, and I said, okay, Ouroboros, what does that sound like? So I started looking at it, and I found that Ouroboros really, if you have to kind of break the word into two, and it's not. If you look at the Greek ura, that is how you would pronounce Ouroboros. If you looked at it from the linguistic point, ura means tail, and voras is the word for like what you would eat, like a voracious appetite. Someone wants to consume something. So that's how you'd have to look at words, and words are put together in a fashion so that they can kind of confuse you, and hopefully you can't really break them down to understand what the true meanings are. So let's look at the way the clock's set up. We live in a base 12 clock system, or 6, because it's four, 2 6s are 12 and 4 6s are 24. So what is 12? 12 is one more than 11. This is the dictionary's definition. One more than 11, twice 6. But if you look at how 12 is actually set up in a word, it's like 12 is 2 more than 10, okay? But they also make it sound like it's like a leftover. Leftover is one of the definitions here, and I thought that was kind of funny. So we're looking at 12 as kind of like a redheaded stepchild, leftovers. Some people love leftovers, some people hate them. Anmarie, did you want to say something?
No, I'm making
Oh.
notes so I don't interrupt you.
Okay,
Yeah, I want to
please.
say a lot of things.
I'm used to being interrupted, if you know what I mean.
No,
So,
go ahead.
okay. So when we look at the system, we're in a 12-base system here, and the clock, the calendar, and if you've ever followed any of our the podcast that Nigel and I did on Devil's Playground 2, we talked about how the calendar was probably at one point either 13 months or 10 months, depending on the time frame, who was in power, what system they wanted to use, why they wanted to use it. But it makes pretty much sense that at one point it was 10 months, and the 2 months were added in order to just justify their what they wanted to accomplish. So those 2 leftovers make sense why 12 would be called that. So 2 left, or 2L. 2L is how it kind of cymatically sounds, 2L. And then the L kind of brings in the name of the entity, L or le in the Latin. That's used a lot as the like the. So an example I'm using here on the bottom line is Italy. A lot of times the words that are transcribed by translators, they'll go in and translate some writing and not realize that that culture didn't read from left to right like we do, but they read from right to left, kind of like the Hebrew. So when they're translating, they're translating it backwards. So that's why we have to kind of sometimes be able to look at something either backwards or like maybe form an anagram and how it can have a different spelling. And that example I'm using is Italy. Italy, these people were called the Tali people. The Tali people probably originated from the Phoenicians, who originated from uh, other civilizations prior to that. Most likely, uh, you know, who was it? It was the Trojans. I'm almost convinced that the Trojans were the Phoenicians and the Venetians, and eventually they become the Tali. But then you transcribe it wrong, and then you have to read it backwards, and that's Italy. So that's a long-winded answer for why I look at 12 as the two left over. So let's look at the word Ouroboros. I already kind of touched on this. The definition is on the left. If you want to read that, you can just pause and look at it. But we think of time, like I said, moving in one direction, but never in reverse, just expiring. But in reality, I do believe that time does rewind us. And if we have the mentality to be the victim, and not stand up for what we really want to accomplish, I think it will always go in one direction. So the clock, I don't think it's anything other than an Ouroboros. If you want to be the victim, it's eating its tail. We need to look at some of the symbology and unlock the reasons why we are trapped in this loop. And so I kind of looked into some of the symbolism. So here is some depictions of what the Ouroboros has looked like through history. We got manuscripts on the far left. We have contracts where the Freemasons are shaking hands and they're patenting something. It seems like it's almost like a seal to make a contract. We see it in the tools or art, like a compass, or even decor. It looks like someone could hang that on a wall. And then we also see it even in a modern day articles, like in Business Week. We see in that headline or the cover, how Wall Street ate the economy. So we see that the Ouroboros isn't something that we shouldn't know about. I think no one's ever going to really teach you in school about what it is or what its function is or what it's trying to kind of make you believe, again, the lie that time is. And if it's only moving in one direction, it's pretty much telling you that you're trapped in that loop. So where does this confusion happen? Well, it happens when we look at opposing symbols. Freemasons, we already said that. As above, so below on the far left. We see it in the sun-moon dichotomy. If we are given only two choices, is it really a choice? And then, of course, the male-female on the far right, we see the king and the queen as being the supreme head of the monarchy. Who's really in control, though? Is it a patriarchal or a matriarchal system? The patriarchal system has oppressed the matriarchal system for the past 2,000 years. Or is it? Or is it something where there is a dualism where they're both working together, or are they one and the same? Those are the questions that we posed people on the podcast with Devil's Playground and Nigel. Are these people hermaphroditic? Are they both? Do they have one recessive trait and one that is more dominant? Could they both be, acting at the same time? One as the dominant showing as your appearance, but masked by your clothing or your mask or your facade, just to push your narrative. And of course, that pushes that whole trans movement. So where else do we see the Ouroboros? We see it on tattoos. We're very popular. You can see that tattoo right there on the top left and the top right. It's not something that goes unnoticed in the tattoos. We see it in the alchemical symbology in the middle, and of course, just artwork in general. And I mean, it's almost everywhere if you know where to look or if you know what you're looking for. So we can look at hijacked sexual symbols. And this is where I kind of warned Anmarie. I said, you might have to censor me.
Nope, go for it.
But it's something where I don't come on here to be vulgar or show that I'm not respectful of other people, but I want to make sure that you hear it in a context where I'm not here to degrade or defame anyone or anything like that. But I just want to show you that, based on my ability to understand more than just the English language, where they're hiding it. And, I just lived under it for years, not really putting two and two together because I didn't care. I was still under the rose-covered glasses of Christianity, right? So let's look at the hijack symbols, sexual symbolism. The archons, we can also name them the Olympians. They're these 12 elite people who supposedly run everything. They, of course, they desire to do one thing. They want to ensnare a man and a woman into a reproductive system only for them, and not the them as the man and the woman, but for the archon. And I use the acronym them. I kind of borrowed it from another show. I can't remember who said it, but it was so good that I couldn't help. But the hierarchy enslaving man, and it's for their own benefit. They harvest the energy. We talked about this. Anmarie, you've mentioned about the harvesting many times as well. And it's not our development, and it's not for our development to become a higher being, but it's for them. So, and I have a couple of quick little memes there. So you got the yin and the yang, and they're like, they're saying, hey, 69. Well, that's what the 69 represents, the yin and the yang. The female portal is the out, or the moon E, and the male is the portal in through the sun and the sun. So when I say in, it's the infusion, the sexual infusion. And of course the word for the female genitalia in a kind of a crude slang is muni. So I mean it's right there in full view if you're willing to use the cuss word and degrade someone and call them a p word in English, if you want to say that. In the Greek it's pretty obvious, but no one uses the word moon in the sense of that that object in the sky, and they're not denoting someone as being a pussy, if you want to say it. At the same time, they're so separated in language that you'd never really connect them. But if you go back 50 or 60 years, you're going to see that typically in the educational system, you were taught both Greek and Latin in the regular school system, which today the only way you'd get that is if you went to a private school that really, really focused on language, because language was probably one of the most focused subjects, unlike today. So I'll move on to the next slide. So where did it go wrong? Well, if you can recognize who this is, it is Dionysius. Dionysius or Bacchus. And Bacchus was, of course, the god of wine, as you can see on the first slide. And you can see that with the use of the wine, of the grapes turned into wine, and you can see what these two guys are taking part in, the whole sexual drunkenness, those two things went together. When you look at the culture, Dionysus and Bacchus were, of course, just one of the people in history that were crucified. And below over here, you have Horus, Tammuz, Mithra, Attis, Krishna, all of which were also said to have been crucified. They also turned water into wine. So it's a story that's been told for thousands of years, even before the Christian faith picked up the story. And then, of course, with that, you have the orgies and the lifestyle that went with the ritual of Bacchanalia. Because what you have here, and I haven't mentioned it yet, I'll probably touch on it later, but you have also you have the drunkenness along with sexuality, but that morphs into sacrifice as well, because they did human sacrifices back in the old days, which they still do today. We just don't hear about it. It's probably more just considered trafficking, and that sacrifice is one of those unmentionables that if you talk about it too much, you're gonna have problems with your channels, with your market in terms of what you're buying and selling, things like that. So we'll just move on from that one. So when Bacchus enters the story, we move from a classical culture of beauty and truth, and that's abandoned for the sex and drugs and rock and roll through that what we just talked about, Bacchanalia. So Bacchus is Dionysus. He's the god of wine and reproduction. Most concepts from Greek mythology were adopted by the Romans, and then the Romans took the baton and carried it forward, and they even changed it to their way of controlling the masses. How would they do that? They would hold ceremonies for months at a time, where they would have gladiators fighting, and then they would shower the crowd with bread and wine, and of course they entertained them just like we have the entertainment today of sport. Sport, I think if you looked at the downfall of men today, they spend their entire weekend, if not even midweek, looking at sports for hours and hours at a time, just throwing away their day to these rituals of listening and watching sports. And it's just an outgrowth of what happened with the Roman control of the society. And that dumbing down of males, most of them aren't going to ever pick up a football or a basketball or a baseball anymore. They're just going to park on the couch and watch for 3, 4, 5 hours. Again, we talked about the crucifixion. The water to wine story is attributed to these people that in history have all done the same thing. So in this caption that I captured online, it's asking, is the story of Jesus, is it a deception? I don't know if the guy who he's us, Jesus, was a miracle worker or was he just a great teacher? I would venture to say that there was probably many great teachers in history, but we'll never know, because we should base our knowledge based on experience and observation, and there's no way that we could ever experience or observe something that happened a long time ago. So what is rock and roll? I recently I heard that the origin of the phrase rock and roll started probably in the 50s, and it originated from the early black jazz, and it was coined because rock was synonymous with sex, and roll was symbolic of drugs. So then you have the whole concept of sex and drugs and rock and roll. So this is where we move from the truth of beauty into this realm of falsehood, which, false could be, 1% false up to 99% false. And it's still a lie, whether it's deception or just a complete lie. So again, that comes from the Bacchanalian mystical sexual frenzy that happens with how we tie everything together in today's markets. We saw even recently the guy who was formerly called Kanye, who goes by Ye now. He had a company that he dealt with that if you know it, I don't want to mention it because it's something that's kind of maybe sensitive to the channel. I don't know if you're aware of that. You know which company I'm talking about that does the clothing lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah,
won't.
it means worshiping Baal or whatever.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that company, he lost millions, if not billions of dollars because of that. And they were depicting children in masochistic garb, and that's just that in itself is a sacrifice, in my opinion. So we look at the intersection of the dualism that we see in the sky. The sky, of course, we see as the sun and the moon as the two portals for creating this cycle of reincarnation. So when the sun and the moon join, that's where and I put up here not creation. Okay. It doesn't create the spark. Okay. It creates the soul or the body. And the spark enters in that. And so I want to make sure that people don't confuse formation for creation, because those are two different things. When you can, if I come up with something on my own, that's a creation. But if I copy something and bring it forward, it's probably going to be a worse version of the original. So I want to make sure everyone understands that that spark that's indicated by that red arrow isn't something that's created from the dual connection. It's just that connection is what forms the body, which is the vessel where the spark is going to travel with. So that's just something that I want to make sure everyone is cognizant of. So that intersection, it's funny, the word intersection is exactly the function of what um, uh, the middle part is gonna form. That Vesica Pisces is, the, as Nigel would say, between the legs of where everything's gonna go in order to create this savior. The savior is, of course, what's going to continue the cycle. So if you have a male and a female, what you're going to end up having is a new creation of 1 + 1 is going to equal 3. So you're going to form a trinity. And if you look, if any of your audience members have ever followed a YouTube creator from, maybe over 10 years now, his name was Jonathan Kleck, and he found that the depiction of the Virgin Mary is nothing more than the female genitalia, just turned upside down. And as you can see on the far right, that's pretty much what the Virgin Mary is representing here. And that is what forms that vesica Piscis. And when you have that ichthys symbol that I have right here on the bottom, you have the first letter of every word of the ichthys, and I'll name them for you. It's the Isus, that's Jesus's name in the Greek, starts with an I, and then it kind of just starts describing who he is. He is the Christos, which is the Christ, and then the next word is Theos, which means the God, and Ios is the Son, and then Sotir is the Savior. So what this symbol actually is saying is he is Jesus Christos Theos Ios Sotir. He's just kind of telling you that when you create this new being, he's going to be the savior to keep you going in terms of an offspring. So there again is that forward moving clock that represents the reproduction, because it goes in and then it comes out. So that's, I mean, that's pretty simple. It's crude, but that's, I mean, that's nature right there. So slang, vulgar words and language, this is the way they hide what they're trying to not let you see. We look at the sun and the moon. The sun is the ball. The ball is like Baal, B-A-A-L, or ball, like the way you kick on the soccer field. But it's the sun and the sun, or the beginning by ejection or ejaculation, if you want to, say it in the technical term. It's going to ejaculate into when that merging happens in the Vesica Piscis, that intersection. And then you have the moon, or the moony, which is going to have the gestational period of 9 months. And then we're going to have the 9 months of gestation, and then of course the birth. So over here, let's look at the balls here. If you take the word in Greek, these would be called archedia. That's plural because there's two of them. So arche is the Greek word for start, too, or beginning. So they're spelled different. If you take the testicles versus the beginning, they're homonyms. They sound identical, but one is spelled differently. Of course, that's what homonyms are. But they're telling you it starts here, starts right in here. It goes through this path and ends up here. And then it comes out of here to be born and dropped onto the earth. So it's all a love game. This again is, I wouldn't have thought of this, 8, 9 years ago, but it's so obvious now that I look at it. So it's a game. So now let's look at the word game. Game are just the gametes of reproduction. So what is a game anyway? A game. It's defined as a way to amuse yourself. Gamos in the Greek, gamos is a wedding. And if you want to talk about, getting fucked, if you want to use that, you say gamo. That's what you say. That's just the way it is. If you're gonna say I'm gonna fuck you up, you say vase gamiso. I'm gonna do that. So the word is there. I mean, if you want to say to someone that you're getting married, you're gonna say that word. So I don't see how it's so in your face that it's become accepted that no one really even flinches from it. So ritualistically, it's a combination of sex and drugs, like we talked about. Then it rolls into human sacrifice, and that usually is either a virgin or a child to appease the gods of fertility. And we see that in the artwork and mythology. So where do we end up? We end up in the simulation. And that simulation is how the controllers end up, sucking the energy through the use of, currency, or just, energy, feeling bad. What do you get when you put the two ichthy symbols head to head? You get the DNA strand. If you get the DNA strand and you unravel it, all you have is a circle. You have a cycle again. So after the DNA strand is created, where do you end up? You end up inside the hologram, inside the flat Earth. What does the flat Earth look like? If it's a hologram, it's really not just a flat pizza, but it's where we stand and where we live. We live on a record. And this is where it ties into what you were talking about with the tape. I think that when you look at the record, it records us, right? It records, it connects us to the ground and to this trap that we're in. The records are played, and as you can see on the bottom left, they have tracks, and the needle runs on this. It starts on the outer edge, and it works its way into the middle, into the center of the record, where when you get there, the song ends, and you have to either, lift that needle and move it to the outside again and start over, or you replace that record with a new one. But it creates that human race that, I'm sorry, I don't want to use the word human. It creates the race of man and woman, because now we're being, not only we need each other, but we're being pitted against one another, because that separation is something that the controllers don't want. They don't want to see us as independent and strong. They want us to be fused as one. They want us to become like, you can't distinguish one from the other. They want to emasculate the man and make masculine the woman. So we're told to lie to enter this realm. If you haven't seen episode 64 of our channel, that's a good one to kind of expand on this whole understanding of being in an arcade, being invited in with trickery. The arcade owner is the Archon. He is going to tell you that you're going to come in just to play a game that's going to be for your benefit, kind of like a school educational system. But in reality, you're going to be thrown into this realm. Your memory is going to be wiped. And you're going to end up going to the start of that record once you're in the middle, over and over, and re-record and forced to play that same song over and over again, because there's just no end unless you physically die, and then the new spark is fooled back into this game. Remember that Archon, he's trapped in here just like we are. So if he's trapped and we're trapped, then the best thing for him is to take advantage of us by using us, using us in a way where we're the battery cell. So at the end, the race is run, we finish the race, and it's up to us to bust through and get out of this holographic reality. And we can do that only by taking our knowledge and turning it into wisdom. And that means action on that. So how do we do that? We defeat the time trap if in restarting that cycle of rebirth, we can establish a return to our original power. We are an entity that is not just in this physical realm. We are a spark, we are a spirit, we are a fractal, I think, of what the true wholeness of what God is. And we need to put Cronus in his place. We're going to stop him from devouring us, because we're not really his children anyway. Our bodies are made from his copying of this second version of reality, this copy that's pasted and he runs it, and we need to return him to his original job of just serving us and being there just for our own leisure, to help us to organize ourselves and to be for our own benefit. Time should not be the thing that keeps us in a fear matrix. It should be something that helps us and is our it is something that helps us, not hurts us. And I think that can only happen is if we understand how this physicality that we're in is really what limits us. So I'm done with my presentation, and I will
Jeez,
stop to share.
that was a mouthful,
Was that enough?
as usual. But you and I always end up kind of in the same place on things without, well, at least without me realizing it, because you're like, did you watch our video? And I'm like, well, I watched some of them, but I don't watch all of them because I try not to watch things. But then we end up at the same conclusions from different angles. So yeah, I mean, all of that, I'm just like, yep. Do you want to hear any of my thoughts? I don't know if I can
Oh,
go back. That was literally a mouthful.
oh, of course. Yeah,
Um,
I want to hear what exactly you, because look, I don't think everyone agrees on everything. There could be things that, what I mentioned there, I'm kind of relying on historical evidences. And if some of those have been altered or changed or um, manufactured just for the purpose of tricking you, then it's going to send you down the wrong path. So, but I think in essence, what we're doing is we're trying to tell everyone, hey, get off your bum, get off your ass, and do something to strengthen yourself. And don't be sitting back and waiting for a savior to come in and mop up your mess that you've kind of been laying in for the last, I don't know, 54 years.
yeah.
So,
Well, we're all saviors in different positions. And even if T, which nobody wants to talk about, people say that he's the savior. Well, he is one, he could be, one of the saviors. We're all the saviors in our key positions. So we're remembering and we got to do our thing. But I mean, I agreed with everything you said. So I just was adding stuff. I was like, oh gosh, because of course you trigger me when you say stuff with new information coming through. But I wanted to start with the 12-12 thing because I did this morning, I like threw together some slides because I'm going to do very short presentation because I was doing the Ask Anmarie for Patreon. And one of the questions was about the clock and why is it 12 and it's not like 144, why don't we have 12 seconds in between each minute and all that? So why doesn't all that line up? So I thought that was interesting. And then I looked at some of your presentation. I was like, oh my God, it's got the 12 and the clock. And then I realized it was 12-12 today. And I was like,
yeah,
so as Nigel would say, you can't
make this shit
make
up.
this, you can't make this shit up. So anyway, so the Chronos thing was super interesting because Chronos is linear time, aeon or eon or whatever is these gods. That's eternal time, which is a loop. What's eternal is you're looping. So that means Chronos would be a perception versus, so making us perceive that it's linear. So we, like you said, we don't see the loop back. So maybe Chronos is in charge of the perception, which is super interesting because what you were showing was kind of what I saw in one of the sessions I did. And I saw a machine eating money, like eating the energy that we're giving to money. And I was like, so like the machine eating money energy, which is time. So time is money. Wall Street ate the economy, all these things. So it's all tied together and it's all tied into the DNA, which I think was part of the question in Ask Anne-Marie too. Just crazy. And then I wrote down awake because you said you don't like that term or you know what? I think we're overusing a lot of terms, but we don't have anything else. I mean, we have this limited language. There's several of these words we don't even want to use at all. So we have like awake or discernment or resonating. You know what? We got to use them because that's the closest we can get to what we're trying to say. So I don't care. I say overuse the words
Well,
as long as because we're trying our
but
best.
yeah, so I think what we have to do because of the limitations, we have to kind of use helping words to make the point. So, for example, wake. Yeah, awake. You're going to say, "Oh, that's where you go after the funeral," but
Funeral.
but it also
Well, we're
means,
awake that we're in a funeral.
yeah, yeah, and
We're
also
at we're at a wake.
what else is awake? Awake is a wave that's formed after the boat passes its path, right? So you're looking at awake as the past. So can we look at awake as being, I want to be ready for what's coming instead of what has already transpired because we already lived that. We lived that moment that just passed right now. And we
Yeah.
want to be able to have our eyes open so that when we're looking forward, we can see what to avoid the pitfalls. And that's where being awake is looking ahead, not necessarily, well, maybe we can use our past experience to help us avoid the pitfalls of the future. So,
Yeah, that's that machine too that was eating the money. It was cranking us out from future to past. So we've lived this before, which is that record, And I also thought about the needle when it spirals into the end. If you let it go, it restarts, I think, doesn't it? If I
yeah,
remember
they,
right.
they, they
So
do.
it'll restart on its own,
Yeah.
or you
And,
can restart it yourself.
and the thing I didn't include it in here because I mean, this presentation could have been a lot longer, but I also looked into how CDs work. CDs work with LED laser lights, all right, LED lights. And when you are reading the CD, that is spinning at a really high rate, and it uses aluminum backing on the CD, and it reflects the light back, and the record is played on the surface. The needle scratches the top, so and you get your sound. Whereas on a CD, the light goes into the plastic, reflects back, and that's where the data is stored in the disk. So
Hmm.
it's spinning, and again, there we get that spiral again. It's spinning at a high rate. And of course, when you look at the cassette tape, that is another way. You have to spin it, rewind it, and here's the part I didn't include is that all of these views of the the record, the tape, the CD, they all are on tracks. Okay. And when you're running on a track, there's two parts of that track. You got the straightaways, and you have the parts of the track that turn, right? And if you're in track and field, you know that the hardest part of the race is the turn because it's so short and it's sharp, and you have to know how to make that turn, how to run through the turn to run out of your lane and be disqualified. Well, we live on this holographic plane that ball earthers will tell you, no, it's just huge, so big that you don't realize the curve. And I'm like, no, it's flat because we're all standing up straight, but it is big and you don't see that curve. The curve is not as pronounced, but it's there. Okay, it's turning. So you see that curve present in the record, the tape, and then these curves are all parallel. As much as you want to not believe it, they're parallel. They don't all go and join into one point like the globies would want you to think. They're all parallel. That's where the parallel universes go. That's where the parallel light streams happen, where I can't see all the colors of the spectrum. You're looking in when you go in your readings. You're looking at other color spectrums for sure. I can almost bet it. I can say that for sure with certainty.
I'm trying to ignore the phone here. Yeah, I kind of think of that flat Earth too as the crater on the ball moon.
Mhm.
I mean, you could say it's all things. Who knows?
Well,
It's a mind program,
you also say it's a
but
ship. You also say it's a ship too.
ship. Yeah, the moon's a ship.
So
So awake. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, the wake is what follows the ship, right? Or it was behind the ship.
Oh, right.
I'm gonna say one thing, and I know you don't watch a lot of programs, but if you can, there's a kind of a decent show. I wouldn't say it's a great show. I just started watching it. It's called 1899, and this show, and I don't want to be a spoiler here, but it shows people on a ship. And I'm not going to say more than that, but maybe off when we end the recording, I can tell you a little bit about it. But it's showing that the ship is where we're at. And there's more to it than that. But yes, that's why we have friendships, relationships. Everything's ship, everything's admiralty law. Everything is
Yeah.
based on the seafaring Phoenician um, system of doing business. Governments do it. Sometimes you're part of the ocean, sometimes you're part of the ground, and you have to know which realm you're in. So I'll let you go back to your notes.
I'm gonna zip through them. Awake is also like being awake that you're at awake. You're in a funeral. You're about to be buried. The wake comes before the burial. But I was gonna say some stuff on the 2L stuff, but I'm gonna skip it. But yeah, using different time systems like the 10 months, the 12 months, 13 months, also with different clock systems to control us. I think those are in different virtuals too, depending, like you said, what they want to do. But that Ouroboros eating its tail, it's like we're in an eating world, a consumption world. It's a cycle of nature, it's a circle of life. It's not normal. And the as above, so below, that's mirrors. We're in a mirrored world. So it's literally as above, so below. And then you were showing a picture of like that monarch or whatever, the hermaphrodite monarch, like half man, half woman. And I was noticing behind it, it looked like a phoenix, which to me is the phoenix laying the eggs of these people that we see in the public eye, and they take on different bodies. They keep getting reborn,
Yeah.
resets. So we see the same celebrities. Hmm.
Yeah,
But
and they need us. They need us not only as an energy source, but also as a reseed to seed again. Because I believe that there's that word. I know that it seems like a 7 year cycle that happens every 7 or 70, somewhere in the sevens that they need, or seventh generations. Every seventh generation, they need to have us reseed for them because they don't have that ability. It's that copy. If they copy too many times, they become obsolete. They need us again every seventh generation to
hmm,
regenerate them.
that's super interesting. That monarch also reminded me of Mary standing on the serpent. It was standing on a serpent, like the image of Mary, the Catholic, is always standing on the snake. And it had a tree with the 12 suns on it. So I was like, oh, that's an interesting picture. But it's like the 12 Olympians is I was wondering if that's like the copying of the Druid. Um, I think they copied all their stuff, but anyway. And then that 69, I think I was hearing somewhere that like 69 and anal sex is supposed to be one more thing that's pushed to curb reproduction as well, or
Yeah.
that type of thing. But
Yeah, I think that
but
in today's society, a lot of the uh, things that are pushed towards even the girls is like the lesbianism, and they're told, go ahead and do that because then you won't get pregnant.
yeah,
And that's because look, they're not gonna stop young people from experimenting and doing things that, I mean, as a parent, I know what I could say to my kids, don't do this. And then it's up to them am I going to instill that with fear or incentive or just tracking them? Or am I going to keep an eye on them? It's almost impossible. But
Yeah.
in today's society, if they're looking at the girls and saying, just be with another girl if you want to experiment, because then there's no ramification in terms of creation or giving birth or getting pregnant, because that's what I'm seeing in this young generation now. They've gotten to the point where that whole stigma of homosexuality is gone now. So they can openly say, hey, just try it with another girl. That's the
They
new
have all
way.
these choices, which is fine, but if you're not gay, it's almost like you feel like you have to, just like the gays felt like they had to be straight or pretend to be straight in society. But now they have, yeah, it just seems like it's a push towards that. But and then your picture with the sun and moon, the portals, that's like the loop. You just loop back in, go out through the sun, in through the reincarnate in through the moon.
Mhm.
But that one with the black sun with the spark in it kind of made me think of the spark coming in through the black hole into the system. So what else did I was seeing um the one guy, I don't know if it was back I don't know who you had up there, which god, but he had like mushrooms coming out of for hair, but it looked like penis. Like that's interesting. I felt like with that sex orgy pic, I felt like something was trying to attach to my first chakra or whatever. I felt like something was trying to hook into me on that picture. I was like, ugh,
Yeah,
getting the creeps on it.
that one was kind of a weird picture. I thought to myself, it's almost like if it was a painting from the Renaissance, the one of the men in that picture looked like he was a guy from some office building. It didn't look like it was an ancient dude. It was
Right?
weird. Yeah.
It was weird. Um, I did write down Jesus. Was he a real person? Because the story got hijacked and then they inserted the God story onto his actual story. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think personally he was I think he was a real person that
I think
was
he
there
definitely was.
somewhere along the line?
I think there definitely was a real person. And he was probably a uh, very powerful in terms of his ability and his consciousness. Uh, he did a lot of great things. I just don't think that it was. Um, I don't think I would think he's like the son of God or anything like that. I mean, I used to. I was a Christian for 25 years, but I think now, based on when I look at the writings of some of his sayings only, and not what the biblical text says, but some of these extra biblical texts, I really don't think he would want us to look at the Old Testament God and pray to him for sure. He was such a
Yeah.
murderer. That Old Testament God murdered more people than Satan or Lucifer
Yeah.
ever even did. So,
Well, I don't have anything against Christians at all. I don't know if a
no.
lot of people know I was raised Catholic and I had 12 years of, all the way to high school of religion class every day, 5 days a week. We had church at school, and then I went to church on Sunday and we did study the Bible. I know the early Catholics didn't because it was in Latin or whatever, but I made a habit of studying it. And when I got out of school, I didn't want to hear anything about any of that because I wanted to figure this out. Just none of it felt right. It was all contradictory. And so I spent, unlike the people I grew up with, I spent many, many years studying the origins of the Bible and the different languages and the Aramaic and all these things that other people did not do. So you and I don't think we come to these conclusions lightly. We do take this seriously. We're not just like, let's just ditch
Yeah.
on Christianity, or it is something serious to us. But the other things I saw was like the sex with X. It's like the more they push sex, the more you're going to wind up the two of you, they're going to be your ex because you're going to be out cheating. They push cheating now. That drives me nuts. Oh, and also just the letter X, but you're marked. But anyway, and you have sex with somebody, you do get marked with their energy. But I think it's the X I see on people where they mark you for specific things, and to specific groups of these AI alien beings. But I noticed the programs on TV for a while now, and movies, it's normal to cheat. So if you're married and you're not getting tempted and going and having an affair, it's almost abnormal. And it's like, God, what weak characters, weak people that they can't stick by their word. They can't finish something before they start something else. Like that's almost they've normalized that.
Oh,
So the more we're
yeah.
having sex, the more we're looking at it, the more we're repressed, which makes us think about it more, the more they feed on that. But I think, we can put a bubble around ourselves and block them from taking our energy, and we do what we want to do. But Virgin Mary is the female genitalia. That's super interesting. Again, the stepping on the snake, which is Isis. Mary is Isis. And I was talking about that the visions of Mary saying, "Bring me your children." That gives it a whole new meaning now. After watching your presentation, it's like, oh, bring me your children.
Yeah.
Um,
I think a lot of people don't
keep
realize.
reincarnating, keep having sex.
Yeah, people don't realize that the the ritual sacrifice was almost, I think it was more common than people realize, even back in the days when you get that story of Abraham, how he was supposed to sacrifice Isaac up in the mountain. That wasn't just a one-time thing. Uh, if you look at that story, you see that Abraham travels 3 days to a special place to do that sacrifice. And if you kind of read into it, you might think, why would he have to go to that place to do the sacrifice? Why didn't he just do it right there? But he was doing it because there was probably a place there where he could buy another sacrifice there, because there was money changers, right? There was people where you're taking your sacrifice there, and then they would say to you, "Oh, hey, that's not good enough. You have a blemish on that. God's not going to like that one. You need one that has no blemishes on it. So here, take this one. Pay me, give me yours, and pay me like 10% more, and you take that one." You know, and so I think that whole story of, oh yeah, the angel found a ram stuck in a bush over there in the thickets, and he sacrificed that instead. The words in that I can't remember what exactly verse it is, but it's when it says the ram was replaced. That ram is not talking about an animal. That ram was another sacrifice, another person. So human sacrifice is definitely um, skipped over in the teachings.
Just like they call pizza for kids now. Probably shouldn't go there if this goes on YouTube, but I'll shut up. But also, I was looking at that Arhedia, which is the balls, which is arc, like archon, RK, archangel, and it's just it's
And I
all the
mean,
same thing. So arc is balls, which is ball, which you said, or Baal. I think it's all the same. They just use all these different words to confuse. It's just Satan, whatever. It's all the same.
yeah, it means start. It means the beginning. Arhi. Yeah.
Hmm.
Arhi. And if you think about the arc, if it's a spark, right? When you're doing a welding job, you have to have the
Hmm.
arc welder, and that is what hits it with the heat, with the electrical, electricity that makes that weld happen. So it's telling you it starts from within here and it goes out to the woman, and implanted. So it's telling you what the starting point is.
My only other thoughts were like the two fish lined up to look like the DNA, and it was making me think of the DNA having that like tuning fork on like is part of the DNA, so it actually has sound,
Mhm.
and that's like the record thing again, playing the record, and Chronos, which is the perception of linear time, and you were saying we need to make him work for us. That to me again is because I think of all these gods just like Chronos as AI, alien AI beings that want to be worshipped, but they switch places with us, you know. So we're supposed to make that AI is supposed to work for us, not the other way around. So I think that was what I got off of that. But let me
Again,
see if I can
I think we give a lot,
yeah,
a
follow
lot.
in your footsteps.
I think we have a lot of times we fall into this trap of thinking that AI is a lot smarter than it really is. You know, we look at
Mhm.
that one robot in Saudi Arabia that's called Sophia, Wisdom.
Right.
How does she run? Sophia doesn't run all on her own. She's connected to something like 12 different wires. And at the end of that wire is a bunch of guys just typing in, you know, all kinds of data. So I want to make sure that people don't fall into this erroneous trap of thinking, oh, AI is so smart. No, AI just has access to a lot of information in a really quick way. Uh, and
Yep.
and it's just, you know, people are going to think, oh, you know, she's so much smarter and she can have a malicious thought and she's going to one day go offline and then just somehow start sucking our energy and take over the world. No, not going to happen. I think what's happening is these evil entities that live here, and we call them alien, they're not from another planet. They're just from another land. Alien, you know, inalienable, someone who's not able to be put a lien on, right? Someone who is not taxable. That is what an alien is. Someone who's outside of our system of government and taxation. That's what an alien is. And I think that's what these controllers want us to, they want us to be afraid. They want us to think
Mhm.
that they have this technology that can just blow us away. And it's not true. It's not true.
No. And you know, maybe they're from another ship, but it is interesting because if they're not subject to the laws, it's very interesting that there's a bunch of controversy going on right now whether AI created things like art and music and whatever can have their own copyrights. Like, no, you can't. Sorry. So they copy, but they just copy quick. So their intelligence that keeps moving in the realm of intelligence, but they don't have wisdom. They don't have life force. So they need some kind of life force. This kind of segues into what I'm going to talk about. All right, so let me do my lame presentation here on the heels of yours.
Lame.
Okay.
I don't think
Well,
we've
it's gonna
seen
be
anything
short.
lame. We haven't
It's
seen
gonna be
anything
short.
lame from you.
How do I reclaim my thing? You might have to give it back to
Oh
me.
yeah,
I don't
I
know.
do. I do. I do.
Is
There
it
you
doing it?
go. Now, you are now the host.
Woohoo! I'm in control. Yes. All right. Let me see if I can find this thing. I think I already have it ready to go, hopefully. So, where am I at? Am I on the first one?
You
Okay.
are at well, I don't know which one you're on. Oh no, you're at number
I don't know
11.
what I did.
You got to
Okay. I thought I had oh, okay. I thought I had it. There we go. AI art and chats and the soul market. These are the two topics I'm going to talk about. There's a lot of controversy going on in the author world right now and with artists about this AI that can supposedly create this incredible art. You type in a sentence and they create this art. Um, this is coming up on that Gideon material. I can't think of the name of their stuff, but anyway, as well as the copyrights. This is now coming to the forefront where people are getting addicted to this, and they're saying it's a computer program. So you type in a sentence and it will crank out some art. Or you can chat with the AI and it will answer you or answer any question you have. So that's what the AI art and chats are. And then the soul market I'll talk about second. But anyway, they're saying that it's a computer program that's making these things. And this Gideon is saying, no, that's not what it is. It's actually a portal that was opened by CERN. So when you interact with the chat or you request the art, you're actually interacting with a portal, an interdimensional portal. So these entities are interacting with you through this portal and basically hooking into you. And when I looked at this, what I got was anything you type in, whether you're looking for art or you want to chat, it's a written contract with them. I kind of also feel like this portal's not all the way open and they are wishing it to be open. So this is why they're sending these pics and these chats to lure our energy to help open it. So this is the alien, I'm not supposed to say those two words together, invasion. And as I said before, all aliens to me are AI. But this is something where once you do type something in, now supposedly they're watching you and they can hook into you. And they're tracking you and they kind of own you. So it's kind of similar to being pulled into the meta, I think, and like in through the eyes into this portal. But anyway, so let's
Well,
go into this. So
it makes perfect sense, right? They want you to participate.
yeah.
They want you to
So what they
participate.
want to do
They
is
need
come
you.
in here, like you were saying, they're not smart enough or whatever to just take over. They want to come in and get us to accept them. So they replace the parents and this type of thing. So they basically want to infiltrate our minds and our societies, and then we see them as replacements for things. So they could replace the parent, a child, even a sex partner. You start having sex with a robot. They want to do the creative work. You've probably seen that going through Facebook where it's like, do you want to hire a AI to write your book or to write your whatever? No, I don't. Uh, but it's all in the mind, through the eyes, and this whole world's light and sound. So we have to use the mind for refusal. But so this here is I think Nigel shared a video like this at one time where these are not real people. These are AI created images. And if
Yeah,
you look at them, they don't look like, if you look from an intuitive eye, they feel icky or strange, or there's just no life force here. It doesn't, if you just look at them with your eyes, it's like, oh, it's a person. But if you look at it with that discernment, it's like, ew, this doesn't even, there's nothing, there's nobody home. This isn't even
yeah,
same with these. There's just nothing to them. They're like a void.
yeah.
Um, so the AI generated art, I did look some of this up and a tracker came up. I was getting warnings on my computer when I did go to a couple of these sites where you can create the art. Um, I wrote, don't look this garbage up and put it out ahead of time. If you're going to put it out there ahead of time, that none of it has permission to enter through your eyes, to hook into you, to make any contract or track you or anything, and reverse spiral any of that back at them. Reject it, send a program back at them like a mirror. So I was just gonna share. Let me see, new share here. Come on, thing. See if I've got this page. I was just gonna flash it real quick. All right, so we're kind of putting that intention up now. I mean, this stuff's gross. It's just stupid and creepy, and it looks like it's got stuff coded into it. So I'm just gonna hit stop share to get out of there.
Yeah,
Get out of there.
I've seen that. There's like some free programs you can do that with, and there's even ones that you have to subscribe to and pay, and they're
Hmm.
even more ability to do more things. And I just think I've seen some of these
Yeah.
things. People put in like two words, like they'll put in tea's name and they'll put in a golf club or something, and then it'll come up with this bizarre picture that has pretty much nothing to do with those two words, but it's telling you that's what AI formulated.
Yeah, it's just BS. I mean, and they're not going to come up with an image that fast. It's obviously stuff they're sending to you that's probably programmed stuff, just like on TV, programmed images. But is it coming through this portal? I'm not sure, but I do think there is some kind of portal they're trying to draw us our attention to so that we help open it and they can control us. But anyway, let's keep going here. What else have I got? I have reject it, send it back. Because I'm just noticing everything. The focus of this whole world is AI. I even have a nephew that's like 10 years old. He's doing a project on robots. I'm like, oh my God, you're learning how to build robots. This is ridiculous. So no hooks allowed in us, no acceptance. Your entry has been rejected. So Chat GPT, Mid-Journey, I think these are two of the main ones for the art, or the chats, I'm sorry. The chat is GPT, Mid-Journey is the art, and then any AI art, et cetera, et cetera. There you go. Mark safe from spells cast through the TV and through AI art. I went on a meme frenzy today. Oh my God, there were so many good ones. I had to say no to some. So just putting that out there. Let's definitely refuse this stuff. Don't look at it. Don't use it. We do want creative artists and musicians, and writers, and all these people that are humans creating the content that are true creators, not some freaking hijacking thing. And no, I say no to all of it.
Yeah,
AI has no rights.
the first time I saw it, I had no desire. Someone was showing me on their laptop that they were doing this, and I'm like, I have no desire for it. And to this day, I've never actually gone and seen a site to create anything like that.
Yeah. And the more you let AI take over, we're giving the ownership over to them to own us even more. Because I've said before, they've already invaded like our countries, the places where we live. So now they're trying to take us over. And so it's the invasion of us now in every way possible. Anyway. All right. So soul market. Um, this is supposed to be this picture, I took it off of Psychedelic Mind on Tumblr. It's supposed to be a person on drugs. I wrote no thanks. I mean, look at that. Talk about like just ripping your mind up. Yeah, you'll see a lot, but you're out of control and it's really easy for them to take over your body or manipulate you, plant stuff in you, whatever they want to do, attach to you. Um, but this also looks like what I see when Sam and I go look for souls. And a lot of times when they're being traumatized, it's kind of like this, what this picture reminds me of, because I see the soul under hypnosis, usually in some kind of trauma or being tortured, so that they are not remembering who they are and they're projecting their body outward, and the matrix. So they're seeing their light body outside themselves, and then we're a copy of that body. But so this is your spark or in the soul body just being tortured. This is what that picture reminded me of. Uh, I do find it interesting, though, that the people that use drugs are seeing the same stuff I'm seeing. I'm just not using the drugs. But anyway, so I literally don't even know what the next slide is, but we'll just keep going here. So I've said it several times on my channel here that we're in a soul market. And I think they're selling us off. They're definitely selling off the light bodies, which is a copy or blueprint of your soul or your true spirit. And those are definitely getting sold off, but I didn't know if they were actually selling souls, because the souls are the batteries running the thing. And a lot of souls that came here to help, like to either take down the matrix or to help the people that have been trapped here for a while, those souls, when they come in through that black hole, they're getting found and they're tortured and traumatized. And this is kind of, represents to me that image. And then, so they're getting grabbed and then held somewhere and tortured. And then there's some that, well, anyway, just to keep them hypnotized. But there's some rare souls that do come in and hide their soul. And then there's some that hide their soul and it gets found and they're taken and then they're traumatized like this. And then the ones that are already here, that we kind of came to help free, some of them are in different, we find different things. Some of them are in a special place in hell, HEL, because this is the hell realm. So people that deliberately sold their soul at some point in time, consciously or unconsciously, like a lot of celebrities, their souls are being held somewhere special and they do things with them. Like I was talking about that phoenix where they get born in and over and stuff. And then others are held just in various places. But I was like, are they actually selling souls? Are they just capturing them, traumatizing them, or are they for sale like our light bodies are for sale? So what I mean by that is like when people got the what that you can't talk about, what I saw was it separated the light body from the soul like a magnetic flip. And then they were able to take that light body through a portal or sell it or whatever. And it was a copy of the soul. And probably into the next virtual, right? Like you're talking about the copy paste. So Sam and I actually did finally see this. Let me see what I've got after. Okay, yeah. So we did finally see this. We found an actual soul distribution center. We were going after somebody's soul to find out where it was, where it was, it already hidden and it's fine. Is it being traumatized? Because we'll experience some of what our soul is going through. And we saw this planet with rings, and this distribution center was like in the rings. It was not a good place and it was extremely difficult to get to. In fact, we didn't even know how we were able to get there. It was one of the most difficult sessions we did. So they've really got this whole thing hidden well. But it made me think of course, Saturn.
And it
If
looks like
Saturn.
like the record on the record player, running
Oh
around,
my God.
going into
It's
the
all
middle.
fitting together. Of course it is. So yeah. Oh my God. So anyway, I'm thinking this is supposed to be a NASA photo of Saturn. Yeah, right. But anyway, is this Saturn where we are in our particular matrix or virtual? So I don't know. But we didn't feel like we were here. What else have I got here? I just threw in some stuff. So anyway, I'm going to recount the details of what we saw. I'm going to do that in the Secret Truth Meter on Patreon. So if you're a patron, you'll be able to see that. But I just threw in some more memes. When you've completed your Earth mission and get to leave, are you going to come back? Hell no. This, I don't know, I laugh multiple times when I look at this one. People just now saying something doesn't seem right. Me ready to leave society. I think I already had this one pulled up. I want more clarity. My mind. Best we can do is make up a delusional story to fog your perception based on conditioned thought.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my God. This one got thrown in. New Age people about every retrograde, full moon, or eclipse. This is gonna be the one, guys. Old patterns are resurfacing. New energies becoming. We're about to ascend so hard this time. Oh my God. What else do I have here? Because I have, okay, so let's just finish this up. So hopefully, if you are going to check out those AI portals, be careful, but hopefully we're going to go in, Sam and I, and hopefully Maurice, or I'm not sure which of us are getting together, but we're going to go in and shut down these AI art portals and these chat portals or these CERN portals. I think we've worked on shutting them down before. I'm thinking they're not all the way open. That's why they need to do this. I could be wrong, but I did throw this in because a lot of people have been asking, we haven't heard from you in a week or whatever. So this is, keep in mind when you don't hear from me or videos ain't too fancy. They're never that fancy on this channel. Harry's presentation was like blew the channel out of the water with fanciness. So not only am I going and doing stuff, trying to change things in the world, if I can get one or both of them to help me, I'm also doing all this stuff, Patreon. These are different reading of the month, Secret Truth Meter, Ask Anmarie, Fearless Forecast, where I'm using a different method to read. I'm planning meetups. I take private appointments, all the correspondence that goes with that. I'm writing, editing, formatting, publishing, and marketing books. I'm doing all those jobs. Recording classes, teaching. I also work at a local store doing readings and teaching, and then trying to get material for truth meters, keep up with what's going on, scheduling interviews for YouTube. The pick a card videos I haven't been doing. They're a lot of work, but they weren't getting views. Website, social media management. I've got a virtual assistant now that's lifted some of that. So this is all the stuff I'm doing. That's why I'm like on the verge of being crazy mentally. So that's just FYI. And subscribe, like, share. I never say this. Go to Devil's Playground 2. Harry, maybe you can update us, but he's trying to get control of it. So go on there and like it, subscribe. So if he does get it back, you're on there. Subscribe, like, share my channel, please. We're small channels. We're not getting anything to do this. If you do want to donate, you can go to Patreon. I guarantee you will get back. If you take part in the meetups and do this stuff, you will get back more than whatever you donated every month. It's likely. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Telegram, the Truth Meter channel and Truth Meter Tribe group, and AnmarieVer.com. You can find me all over the place. Nigel and Harry are on Telegram, his story, HISSTORY. So any updates on Devil's Playground 2?
No, nothing so far. I think they're still experiencing that delay, that whatever the Chinese are.
Oh my God, wait a minute. I think we stopped recording when we switched host. This does this to me every once in a
Oh,
while,
it
Zoom.
says, it still says recording.
Oh, it is. Okay. There's no recording on my screen. Anyway, I'm going to stop this here.
Stop the share. Yeah, it's
Okay,
still
there it
recording.
is. There it is. I was like, oh my God, I'm not redoing this. We'll just keep yours and that's it.
Yeah, so no updates yet. I think the family is still embroiled in a lot of the China stuff. And then, of course, YouTube would probably want some type of death certificate, and who knows how long that would take. So naturally, we haven't heard anything from them, and of course, YouTube is only going to allow a family member that has that proof in hand to do that switch over. When it was his channel, Nigel, I never really wanted to infringe on what he had already formed, but he didn't really want to do the channel unless I participated with him because he wanted that interaction. He didn't want to do the monologue thing, kind of like how your channels is just you really giving out that good information. He wanted to have a discourse between two people, and then have a dialogue to see if it could, during that recording, spur on new ideas. And I'll be honest with you, most of the time the new ideas happened because prior to us recording or after after the recording. So that would lead to the next show. But yeah,
Kind of
no
like my
updates.
goal. That's similar goals. I wanted to do group channel. I try to involve listeners. I mean, I know you're supposed to interview people from big channels to try to bring new subscribes on, but I just wanted to actually hear from everybody and have a group effort. Like I don't like doing things by myself. I'm an introvert. So I can understand him. I think he was an extrovert, but he liked doing things in groups. So that was what we kind of had in common, both channels. And it doesn't always pan out that way, but I know we were getting lost with the number stuff. I mean, I did numerology for many years, and but Nigel was really on a number thing that I didn't know where he was coming from because I didn't know the context or anything. So, but I know you two started out with the word breaking the words down, all that kind of stuff, breaking what's going on in society down, and that really interested me. So, yeah, your presentation was fascinating, brilliant, and I really appreciate you coming on to share. So the goal is to maybe get a Devil's Playground 3 if you can't get a hold of 2, which kind of suck because then you have to get your listeners back. But
Well, I'll be patient. We'll see what happens. I think that the focus still will be on having the family take care of Nigel and his property and of course his remains to be moved back so the family has access to it. And then of course the channel is probably a secondary of importance. So in the meantime, I can just come on your channel.
hey, I'm all about it. So I can just sit back like this and relax and just let you go.
I
Like, hey
wanted
guys,
you.
I'm putting out a truth meter. Oh, it's Harry doing it.
I wanted you
I'm on vacay.
interrupt a little bit, so I felt like normal.
Okay, I can. Well, it was such a good flow, but I can interrupt if you want me to interrupt. I took
I,
notes instead.
I should have had a glass of water because my throat was getting a little dry talking so long. But
Do you think they're dehydrating us? Because I am constantly dehydrated, and I never used to be. Never. For the last 2 years, I'm just like, and it's not helping.
well, I think that if you're drinking certain kinds of water, yeah, you're not going to get hydrated. Your water should be distilled, and then you should probably have some minerals that you take with the water. But I tell everyone that if you're going to get water, you should get it from your fruits instead of water. You should be eating like a couple of oranges or an apple or something like that every day because that's a better form of fluid than just drinking water, especially never tap. And anything out of a plastic bottle is probably not good for you either.
Yeah, I don't do the plastic bottle. I've got a water filter that has the coral, I think it's coral, in the bottom of it to put the minerals back in and all that.
Mhm.
But I picked 2 cards last night. I don't remember what the cards said, but it was something, they were both like, rehydrate, but then it said connect. It said something about connect with water and then something else connect. And I was like, oh, this isn't about hydrating. This is about using water. I'm wondering like if we can read the future with water, if we can heal with it, like we need to start talking to the water. Like they show with those water crystals and stuff. I think we need to be doing more with water. If it is a live entity, it was kind of, I think I asked what I need to know right now or whatever, and it was start working with water. So,
Yeah, water
but definitely not
also.
tap. Oh my God.
Yeah, also there's systems that you can buy, of course, to filter through your whole home. And also there's also attachment like tube attachments that you can put in your water line that will spiral the water. And then once
Oh.
the water gets the spiral back into it, it's almost like you re-energize it. And then of course you're going to push it through like a distiller and then drink it that way.
I'm smiling because I didn't buy the Niken water thing, which does have this extra thing that spirals the water afterward. I ended up buying from another company, but it's just making me think again of that reverse. I think
Yeah,
we
yeah,
were
yeah.
talking about Eddie and I were talking about that reverse or the counterclockwise
Yep.
spiral, like
Mhm.
just what it's reminding me of. Anyway, all right, I got to let you go. You have a full schedule today. You have family, personal life, work. So
All
we're
that.
gonna just get together whenever you feel like it, whenever you can. I mean, both of us are just crazy busy, so
Sure.
everybody is these days. They sped time up on us, so we're just all scrambling, it seems like.
Well, yeah, of course. As we get older, time moves faster, I think.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, we're almost to the new year. I'm like, well, wait a minute, 2022 just started. Now I got to figure out my goals for 2023. Like,
yeah,
I'm not done. Still on like March of 2022. I'm not done. So
it's
anyway,
like that example you gave with the toilet paper. We've
I
run through,
remember.
you said that as the roll gets smaller, it seems to turn faster, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're at the end of the freaking toilet paper.
We're at least halfway through.
I know. I did feel like it was going to start going faster and faster too. So not to depress anybody, but anyway, we got this. We're gonna shut this shit show down. Let me do it. Let's end with a cuss word.
Yes,
All
there you go.
right. We have had sex and we just haven't had enough cussing in here. So we got to get it all in.
Sure thing.
All right, Harry, I'm going to shut off the recording.
All right.
Bye,
Sounds good.
everybody. Thank you for all your support. And we'll see you soon.